Welcome back. The inauguration of a Sharia court in Oyo town, initially set for January 11th, 2025, has been suspended indefinitely. The decision comes after widespread criticism and intervention by Governor Seyi Makinde, who emphasized the importance of upholding the law and ensuring that any structure aligns with the state's legal system.
But for me, near Oyo State, our laws as a constitution in Nigeria is what I swore to uphold. And if they are within the law, fine. But if they are not, they should expect that I will insist that the law must be followed. So, we're using this opportunity to say to the people.
The planned inauguration by the Supreme Council of Sharia in Nigeria had sparked intense debates, with critics arguing that it could jeopardize the state's religious harmony. The Oyo State chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria had also dismissed the initiative, describing it as unconstitutional and a threat to the state's secular nature. Organizers have since announced the postponement, stated that the planned structure was not a Sharia court, but an arbitration panel for Muslims seeking voluntary dispute resolution. Now joining us is legal practitioner Magaji Mato Ibrahim SAN, who's joining us this morning. Good morning, and thanks very much for joining us.
All right, whilst we're trying to sort out, all right, great. Mr. Ibrahim, Magaji Mato Ibrahim, SAN, thank you very much for joining us. So let's talk about, the conversation. The conversation now is about the potential of bringing the Sharia court into southwest Nigeria. We recognize how this might have been an issue of dispute in earlier years. Well, let's first get your thoughts regarding this.
Sorry, I have a problem with the credibility.
Can you hear us now? Leonard SAN, can you hear us? Okay, we'll try to sort that out, and we, of course, hope to bring him back and quickly sort out the audio. But just to mention that the conversation is about bringing Sharia law into southwest Nigeria. Sharia law has existed. It's predated, the 1999s when it was officially adopted in certain northern parts of the country. But I think the challenge that many are seeing here is the fact that it is discriminatory to other religions. It's discriminatory to the Christians if you bring the Sharia law and say that they should be bound by the Sharia law. If you recall, sometime in, I think it was 2000, Kaduna State was on fire because of this. In fact, that was recorded as one of the worst riots that Nigeria has seen since the Civil War. The numbers as to how many people died or how many people lost their lives there have been issues of disparity between these numbers because of Sharia law. A number of northern states had signed up to adopt the Sharia law into their legal system. Kaduna State decided to do the same, and they said, no, you can't do that. There are Christians here, and the killings lasted. Sharia, there were 2 phases of killings, sometime in February, I believe, and another time in March. But what we're saying at the end of the day is Nigeria is a secular state, and every religion should be given equal opportunity. I'm talking Christians, Muslims, traditional worshippers. They should all be given equal opportunity to practice their religion, but not have their religion infringed upon. And that's some of the arguments that we've seen a number of people share on social media. But let's have our guest join us. We have legal practitioner Tohwo Oseruvwoja, who's joining us, and we have Leonard SAN, Magaji Mato Ibrahim, joining us as well. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good to have you. Good to have me here.
All right. I think I'll begin with the Leonard SAN as to your thoughts regarding the possibility of making the Sharia law, bringing the Sharia law into southwest Nigeria. What are your thoughts on that? Okay. Whilst we're sorting out, Leonard SAN, can you hear us?
Can hear at all.
Okay. We'll try to sort that out. I'm hoping that Mr. Oseruvwoja is here as well. Let's get your thoughts on Sharia law coming into Southwest Nigeria?
Okay, Sharia law coming into Southwest Nigeria, well, if you look at Section 6 of the Constitution, it has a stated courts that are recognizable in Nigeria. And any other court that can be made recognizable is as a result of the act or the law of the State House of Assembly. It's not an issue of individual, but it's an issue of law. Do the Oyo State, for example, now, or the State House of Assembly in Oyo State, sorry, the House of Assembly in the Southwest, in the Western Nigeria, did they bring a law for the creation of Sharia courts in those states? If the answer is no, then any person or individual who tend to institute such and who tend to bring up such an institution goes contrary to any new law. Goes contrary to any new law. So it must be an act, or not even an act in these circumstances, a law from the State House of Assembly, and it must pass through the process of lawmaking. So it's not something an individual or group of individuals can come up with.
Yeah, but I mean, first of all, I think you should probably also speak on the argument. They're saying that it's not a Sharia court, but an arbitration panel for Muslims seeking voluntary dispute resolution. What is the difference here?
Well, the issue is that anything that has to do with adjudication or reconciliation or anything that has to do with dispute settlement between an individual must be done in line with laid down laws. They understand? And when they said it's not a Sharia court, it's for arbitration or whatever it is, the question is that under which law are they bringing it to? We are not underestimating peer groups coming together for the purpose of resolving issue within themselves. That is not an issue. But when it becomes a system that subjects a larger population or identify a larger population of a community or of a society, then it must go in line. Even if you look at the reconciliation panel, they work with the Arbitration and Reconciliation Law or Act of Nigeria. So it's not just you coming together to say, okay, well, we are bringing it. Churches or mosques or religious body, they have a way of reconciling or settling disputes. We are not disputing that. But when it comes to the public domain or training to the public or making it known as a laid down procedure or a laid down process for a particular set of people, the law must come in then.
Okay, so now that you've explained, that they would need to follow the law to establish an arbitration tribunal or to establish a court, should they persist and go ahead, what would be the next option?
No, the next option is, first of all, they are going contrary to law. And basically, I think when a law is not properly followed, the anarchy is set to let loose. So obviously, those people or individuals will be treated as a threat. And we should not take this lightly, because anybody can still come out today and say they want to establish Shango court or Amadioha court, or let me use the word Oni court and every other court they want to do. But you should know that we have a conventional way, and those people who are promoting such an act, or people who intend to carry out such a process, let me just advise them. They have representative in the State House of Assembly. They should channel their process, or they should channel their desire to the House of Assembly. He can sponsor a bill, or they can co-sponsor a bill for the establishment of a law court, of a Sharia court. Remember, Sharia court is recognizable in the Constitution. Sharia court is, I think, if you look at the Sharia Court of Appeal, is one of the court of record that the National Judicial Council regulate also, and appointment of those people are followed by what laid down laws in those states, be monitored, and also be made. The process is made by the National Judicial Commission. So they should follow those process, follow the law, make it an establishment, and those things takes time. It takes acceptability, and I believe nobody will go against them if they follow the due process of the law. But if they want to go contrary to the law, obviously the law will take its course, because you cannot in any way, a court is an institution that form part of democracy and form part of government. An individual cannot take it upon himself to want to bring out an institution that is controlled, or that ought to be the third arm or second arm of government, to be his own to be in his own parlor. No country will allow such, and neither will a state fold his hand and allow such a thing to happen.
Well, the conversation started this way, I believe, during the Obasanjo administration, and then slowly we started to see states adopt Sharia law. It started with Zamfara, I believe. Currently, there's about 12 states, that currently have, Sharia laws in their states, and I'm guessing, these are how the conversations start, and then, maybe they go through the legal process, like you've mentioned. Oyo State has a sizable Muslim community. What do you expect to happen next? Governor Seyi Makinde doesn't seem, too keen on this. He's decided to stick with the laws that govern Oyo State. But what do you, see happening next? Are these conversations going to continue? Do you expect that it would go through the National Assembly, and maybe, they would get, approval from the National Assembly?
Well, when it comes to Sharia courts of a state, the National Assembly has no role to play in that.
The State House of Assembly, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, the State House of Assembly. Yeah. Well, if it comes to when they follow the due process of the law, and remember, let's not shy away of the fact that the Sharia court we are talking about is only restricted to the Muslim, except any other religion, like a Christian or a traditional worshipper submits his or herself to the jurisdiction of the Sharia court. So it affects nobody in the society, and it intends not to infringe on the right of any other individual who is not a Muslim. So if you follow the due process of the law and they have the total majority, nothing stops such a court to be established. Remember, it ought to be an institution of the law. Then two, if the governor, politicians changes, because one thing about politicians is they follow the voice of the majority, particularly when they are approaching the electionary process, or those who are ambitious. And you won't underestimate the fact that at this point in time, for Makinde, who is also having the body language of contesting for the office of the president, it will be a bit diplomatic, because he needs both the support of all aspects of life to achieve such his ambition. So I think politics may play, but the other thing again is that if the process is followed holistically, Governor Makinde as an individual is subjected to the voice of the majority. But if the process did not follow the true process, if the process did not follow if the process is not followed appropriately, then obviously he will be vindicated. And when I look at his body language and look at his statement, he is of the view, and I believe he should be of the view, that the right thing ought to be done. So let's see what happens. And let me still tell you some certain things. It's not also all the Muslims that are willing, or they wish to submit to the Sharia court, because you see them coming to the conventional court, and you see them sorting their grievances in non-conventional courts.
Okay, thank you very much for specifying that, because we've seen certain Muslims as well saying, I'm Muslim, but I do not support the establishment of Sharia law in Oyo State. So there have been mixed reactions to this. We can all agree that Sharia law dated, it's not a new thing. It's existed before pre-colonial era. However, I spoke about earlier the violence in 2000 that was caused in Kaduna, because they were trying to ensure that, the Sharia law became the official law by which the citizens in Kaduna State were bound, but the Christians protested. Do you worry that that might be something that we might end up experiencing again in 2024 or 2025, as the case may be? And how do we ensure that we do not degenerate into that kind of bloody situation? It was referred to as the worst outbreak or worst violent outbreak after the Civil War.
Well, one thing I'll tell you if you want to cheat Africa, and particularly if you want to cheat Nigeria, you just bring in religion. And religion has a way of taking away our cognitive, taking away our reasoning states, and putting us into a state of, how will I put it now, a state whereby people tend to question our thinking capacity. Now, what happened in Kaduna, let's be specific. When they said the Sharia court and Sharia law, now we'll come to the supremacy of the Constitution. That is where I find it a bit worrisome when I see the implementation of certain actions taken in the northern Nigeria. But the question is, who has the guts to question or to challenge, just like what some people can still do, to challenge the process? Now, the one thing we should understand is that if you look at it, behind Christian and Muslim, we should also understand that there are other religions that ought to be recognized, that ought to be taken away. But these two religions are taking dominant role and dominant factor in affairs of Nigeria activities. So that is that. Then two, Sharia law can never and will never become the superior law to the Constitution. Irrespective of whatever we are saying, when there is a conflict between what the Sharia law is saying and what the Constitution is saying, or where there is a conflict between English law and the Sharia law, to some extent, the Sharia law is seen as the equitable aspect of it. As the equitable aspect of the English law supersedes the Sharia law. A good example is it could be said that a Muslim who decides to write his will, obviously, when such a will is presented, to some extent of my legal knowledge and jurisprudence, the will supersede the religious, the Sharia laid down procedures of will. So that is that. Then two, in Oyo State, let's look at it from this perspective. Before Christianity and Muslim, we have our own religion. We have the traditional religion. So if they said it's going to be, they are not saying it's going to be the supernatural law. I believe the Oyo people are more educated than that. It's only a law that governs the Muslim within that particular state. That is one. Then two, when such a law contravenes the general law or contravenes the Constitution or contravenes an express provision of the law, the Sharia law will come to that extent bow down. And I'll tell you for free that they've had reasons whereby decisions made at the Sharia court or the Sharia Court of Appeal are decided otherwise at the Court of Appeal, the Conventional Court of Appeal. So when it goes to the Sharia court, there are process it follows, and it still boils down to the Conventional Court, where the Conventional Court will look at it holistically and implement the superior law or the law that comes to this extent. And life is changing, things are changing. And I think with time, Nigeria as a country we overgrow this religious seriousness over humanity.
I don't know that is, I don't know if that's something to have a lot of faith in, because if in 2024 we're still having these type of conversations, it means that we're not
let me ship in something. Sorry, let me just ship in something. Do you understand? Yeah. If you notice, we are getting to a point now where people tend to question religious promotions. Before, if you look at 10 years ago and now, so it will get to here in the UK, you'll be shocked that even the money I spend in my Christmas fittings, and a friend of mine who's a Muslim, when I went to his house, I was now asking him, I said, I called him, I'm just giving you an analysis. So with time, Nigeria will get to see that humanity first before the religious seriousness.
Again, I get what you're saying, but I personally just don't have a lot of faith in that, analogy. I don't think that's what's going to happen, and it's not just Nigeria. It's mostly because of where the world is going, and how feeble a lot of people have become. Emotionally, a lot of people have become. There's so much that's going on across the world that is eventually going to trickle down to Nigeria, and I don't know that we could have a lot of faith in that, but we will see. Time will tell. We'll see how your state handles this. And of course, the rest of the southwestern states. We will see. The voice of the people would always, take the day eventually. And Nigerian constitution rather should always be respected. But thank you very much for your time this morning. We would love to have you back as quickly as possible. Merry Christmas from us over here. We wish you a very happy celebration. All right.